There's this challenge that every single professional faces. But for folks in human resources, it can be an existential threat. And the challenge is this. How do you provide unique value instead of just, stating what everyone already knows? Today, we're going to break down how to escape what's called the obvious trap.
So let me ask you something straight up. Is your work obvious? I mean, really think about that for a second. In pretty much any organization, almost anyone can point out the obvious problems, right? And the obvious solutions. The real question is, are you bringing something more to the table?
And this is what we call the HR obvious trap. It's so easy to fall into, but the stakes for your career and frankly, for the entire HR function are incredibly high if you get stuck here.
So what is it exactly? Well, the obvious trap is our natural tendency to just stop digging once we find an easy surface-level answer. We find an answer and we stop looking for the best answer, the one that actually creates value. This kind of shortcut might feel efficient at the moment, but in reality, it's a huge barrier to any kind of deeper, critical thinking.
And here's why this is so critical. Get this. If HR professionals only repeat what is commonly known, they're basically telling the organization, hey, there's nothing really unique or special about what we do. And when that happens, the company might just turn around and decide, you know what, maybe we don't really need a dedicated HR department after all. Ouch.
To really get our heads around this, let's just step away from the corporate world for a minute. We're going to use a simple, everyday analogy that I think illustrates this problem of obviousness versus substance.
Okay, so how do you plan a vacation? What are the first things you need to figure out? I mean, most of us have done this, so we intuitively know there are different layers to this question.
Now, look at how we can break this down. The obvious details are things like, okay, who is going and when are we going? They're necessary for sure, but they're not the vacation itself. The substance, the actual experience, is in the other details. Where are we going? What are we going to do when we get there? Where are we going to stay? Now that's the stuff that really matters. Just think about it. If someone tells you, I'm going on vacation with my family in December, you know absolutely nothing of substance about their trip, do you? Are they going skiing in the Alps or sitting on a beach in Mexico? No clue. This is the exact same trap HR falls into. When you only provide the obvious, surface-level stuff, you're telling the organization nothing of real value. Okay, so that makes sense on a personal level, right? A vacation. But now let's scale it up. Let's take this to a more complex professional project to see how the exact same principle applies when the stakes are way higher. Let's say your project is to construct a building. What are the first, most obvious things you would need? Just take a second and think about the absolute basics. You probably thought of these three things, right? Materials, tools, and a plan. And yeah, you're right. You absolutely need them. But if that's all you told someone, they would know nothing of merit or substance about the building you're actually constructing. The real value-added information comes from answering the deeper questions. What type of building is it? I mean, a skyscraper in a city requires a completely different approach than a shed in a backyard, right? Where is it located? Are there zoning laws? What kind of specialized equipment is needed? These are the questions that actually define the project.
All right, let's bring this all back home. We've looked at vacations, we've looked at buildings. Now let's apply this same logic to a high-stakes, real-world HR scenario. This is where it all comes together.
Imagine this. A lawsuit hits your desk. An employee was injured. The moment you hear court case, your mind probably jumps to the standard, predictable HR playbook. So what does that playbook look like? Well, the standard playbook is always the same. Number 1, we need to know the law. Number 2, we need to update our policies. And number 3, we need to conduct training. And of course, these things are essential. They're the foundation. But they are also completely, utterly obvious. The very fact that there's a lawsuit tells you these things are needed. So if you walk into the CEO's office with just that playbook, what do you think happens? They're going to look right at you and say the most challenging words for any professional. Tell me something I don't know. And that is the ultimate test. And it's a test you just can't pass by only stating the obvious. So how do we meet that challenge? How do we actually provide something the CEO doesn't already know? This final section is all about the actionable framework for escaping that trap and adding strategic value. Let's really put these two mindsets side by side. On one side, you've got the obvious. That's just stating what's commonly known. It's the bare minimum. It's all about compliance, just checking the boxes. It's reactive.
But on the other side, you've got adding value. Now, this requires real effort. It's not about compliance, it's about critical thought. It's not about doing the minimum, it's about creating strategic impact that actually moves the business forward. It's proactive.
So how do you actually do this? Okay, first, you dig deeper. Don't just look at the lawsuit in isolation. Was this a one-time thing, or is this the 10th similar incident this year in that department? Is the equipment old? Is there a pattern in the data? Second, you explore connections. How does this one incident ripple out and affect other parts of the business? Is it going to impact production schedules? Do we need to tell our insurance carrier about a new risk that could jack up our premiums? And third, and this is so crucial, you find the unseen impact. Sure, one employee was physically hurt, but what about the morale of their entire team? Do they feel safe? And how are our customers perceive us now? Answering these questions, that's how you find the insights the CEO doesn't already have.
And that leaves us with one final provocative question. After everything we've talked about, I want you to ask yourself this. What will you see tomorrow, in your own work, that was simply part of the obvious background noise today? Because the answer to that question, well, that's where your true value really begins.